the head coach firing, who was the biggest surprise for me, was Brian Flores. Monday morning, I knew that it was a good chance that Mike Zimmer was going to be let go by the Vikings. I knew it was a great chance that Matt Nagy was going to be let go by the Chicago Bears. I figured Vic Fangio would be fired by the Denver Broncos. As a matter of fact, I think he got fired on Sunday because the Broncos played the Chiefs Saturday in Denver. But this Brian Flores firing caught me by surprise because when I look at Brian Flores, right, during his tenure as head coach of the Miami Dolphins, Brian Flores, he was 24-25. So he won 49% of his games. The last two seasons, he was 10-6 in 2020. He was 9-8. So the last 2 years, he was 19-14. He was 4-2 against Bill Belichick. And when I look at this Miami Dolphins team, right, obviously I'm going to look at their quarterback. The fact that Brian Flores had the Miami Dolphins in a position the last 2 years to get to the playoffs with Tua shows you the quality of coach Brian Flores is. Because I look at the rest of the young quarterbacks in the NFL. I look at Joe Burrow with the Bengals. I look at Josh Allen with the Bills. I look at Lamar Jackson with the Ravens, Patrick Mahomes with the Chiefs, Herbert with the Chargers, Jalen Hurts with the Eagles. I look at Kyler Murray with the Cardinals. I look at all of these young quarterbacks, right, with their respective teams. And out of all these young quarterbacks, I believe Tua is the worst. And I haven't really been impressed with Tua since he's been in the NFL. So far in his career, Tua, in 2 years, he got 27 touchdowns, 15 interceptions. He's thrown for close to 5,000 passing yards in 2 seasons. He's completed 68% of his passes. But I don't look at Tua as being a game changer for the Miami Dolphins. And last year, I thought Brian Flores told us everything you need to know about Tua and how he felt about Tua. Because in late game situations, they put in Ryan Fitzpatrick. Ryan Fitzpatrick, the old veteran, inconsistent quarterback, you put him in late game situations over your young quarterback in Tua, who won a national championship at Alabama. It showed you how Brian Flores looks at Tua. He doesn't view Tua as the type of quarterback that you win because of. You win in spite of Tua. You need a great defense and a great running game to be able to win with Tua. You don't need that with Joe Burrow. You don't need that with Justin Herbert. You don't need that with Josh Allen. You don't need that with Kyler Murray. So the fact that Brian Flores had the Miami Dolphins in a position to get to the postseason the last 2 years with a 19-14 record tells me that he is a great NFL head coach. And I felt like the Miami Dolphins made a mistake here because they were headed in the right direction. But the Miami Dolphins have always been a mess. And a part of the reason why they have always been a mess is because of their owner, Stephen Ross. Because this was a situation where Stephen Ross, he lives in New York, I believe, but he attends Miami Dolphins away games and he comes to the home games, but he's not there every day. He's not a hands-on type of owner like a Jerry Jones. Like Jerry Jones, he's in the facility every day with the Dallas Cowboys. He's the general manager, he's the owner, and he knows what's going on with his football team. Stephen Ross is the opposite. So in Miami, the person that's been in charge is the general manager. That's Chris Grier. So Chris Grier, since he's been in Miami in 2016, he has a record of 47-50. That's his record as general manager. He's also the general manager who chose Tua over Justin Herbert. But somehow, Stephen Ross decided to fire Brian Flores instead of firing Chris Grier. And since he's been the general manager in Miami, not only does he have a losing record of 47-50 as the general manager, he's only been to the postseason one time. One time, Chris Grier, as the general manager, got the team to the postseason. He's also the same head coach who hired Adam Gase. Y'all know how I feel about Adam Gase. I said when he got the job in New York with the Jets, he was high. He was high. I've never been impressed with Adam Gase, but this is the guy that Chris Grier decided to hire. So my question for Stephen Ross is simple. Why would you fire Brian Flores, who showed improvement in his 3 years being your head coach and building a culture in Miami that's a winning culture? Why would you fire him and not fire Chris Grier? And it makes you wonder if Chris Grier and Stephen Ross were having lunch together and just yucking it up, laughing at Brian Flores, like, hey, we don't really believe him as a head coach. We don't really like how he handles things. Because listen, I want to read you something. This is from Jeff Darlington, and this is nothing against Jeff Darlington. He's a great reporter for ESPN. But this is a tweet that he had out yesterday. He said, the decision to fire Flores can be summed up with one word: relationships. His relationship with Grier and Tua had deteriorated to a pretty bad place, along with constant staff changes. Owner Steve Ross no longer saw Flores as a healthy fit in Miami. So that was Jeff Darlington's tweet about why Flores is out in Miami. And the word in that tweet, the key word is relationships. So you mean to tell me Stephen Ross fired Brian Flores because Brian Flores didn't see eye to eye with Chris Grier? As a head coach, if your general manager chose to draft Tua over Justin Herbert, wouldn't you be a little bit irritated with your general manager as well if you were head coach? I know I would. I know if I was Brian Flores, I got to come to work every day knowing we had an opportunity to draft Justin Herbert and we picked Tua, and you, the general manager, were a part of the reason why we drafted Tua. I would be looking at you sideways as well with a side eye. Like, what the hell are we doing here? Like, how are we looking at players in the draft? Because we've seen how Justin Herbert has turned out. I know the Chargers didn't make the playoffs, but Justin Herbert is a significantly better quarterback than Tua. It's not even close. Not even close. But I understand why Brian Flores was frustrated with Chris Grier. I can understand why he would be. And then, not to mention, this is the other thing that I thought about with this Miami Dolphins situation. Ross fired Flores because of relationships in sports. Is it about winning, or is it about being buddy-buddy? Is it about singing Kumbaya and going to dinner together and having drinks on the weekends? or is it about winning football games? Because if it's about winning football games, Brian Flores did just that and got better every single year in the 3 seasons since he's been the head coach of the Miami Dolphins. You remember, in his first year in Miami, I want to say the Miami Dolphins, they started out like 0-7. They were 0-7. And then I think in those first 4 games, they were outscored like 126-26. Like they were getting completely blown off the field. Started out 0-7. They finished the season winning 5 of 9, if I'm not mistaken. They won 5 of 9. So they finished 5-11. And that team rallied around Brian Flores. He was a coach that was able to connect with his players, and he brought the best out of his players. I mean, he was also able to manage Tua because you remember earlier in the season, I went on record. I said, if the Miami Dolphins want to be true contenders in the AFC, they need to trade for Deshaun Watson. I said it. There were reports out of Miami about how the Dolphins were in the market and they were trying to trade for Deshaun Watson. The fact that Brian Flores was able to manage Tua going through that situation, knowing his name is in trade rumors, shows you the type of coach that Brian Flores is. I don't think Brian Flores wanted Tua. I think Brian Flores, and according to reports, he wanted Deshaun Watson. But publicly, he said, Tua is our guy. Not privately, he probably told people he wanted Deshaun Watson. But publicly, he told us Tua is our quarterback. So the fact that Brian Flores was able to manage Tua with his name being in trade rumors, that in and of itself shows you the quality of coach Brian Flores is. So I just think the Miami Dolphins made a mistake here. And this is one of those situations where, in a way, I'm happy for Brian Flores. He gets out of Miami. And if I'm Brian Flores right now, I'm kicking it with my family on the beach, collecting my checks from the Miami Dolphins. I'm getting my money and I'm chilling on the beach because I know I'm going to get another head coaching opportunity at some point. Might be this year. It might be this year where the Denver Broncos, the Chicago Bears, somebody going to call Brian Flores for a coaching job. He won't be out of coaching long, but I would be chilling on the beach because sometimes the things that don't happen for you or work out for you is in your best interest. Have you ever seen someone be in a toxic relationship and they in this toxic relationship for 2, 4, 6 years, right? But after the relationship is over, or even the marriage, the couple doesn't have children. And you look at your friend and you say, male or female, hey, you didn't have kids with that person, so it could have been worse. You stuck with them forever. So if you're in a long-term relationship and it's toxic and you get out of that long-term relationship and you don't have a child together, you can move on happily with your lives after the relationship ends or the divorce happens. You can move on happily ever after. You don't have to have any connections to that toxic partner. I think that's how Brian Flores should look at his Miami Dolphins situation. You can move on, Flores, maybe go to Chicago and get a better quarterback in Justin Fields, because I think Justin Fields is going to be better than Tua. Maybe go to Denver. They don't really have a quarterback to build their franchise around just yet, but I like that organization. Denver Broncos have one of the best organizations in the NFL. John Elway is a great leader in that Broncos organization. So I think this could be a blessing in disguise for Brian Flores. He need to look at the fact that he got his money, the fact that he was able to gain experience as a head coach in Miami. And I think, honestly, Brian Flores did the best job out of all of Bill Belichick's disciples who coached under him, I think Brian Flores did the best. He was better than Romeo Crennel. He was better than Bill O'Brien. I thought he did a great job. Now, I know everyone's going to say Bill O'Brien got the Houston Texans to the playoffs. Bill O'Brien had Deshaun Watson. Okay? Brian Flores was on his way to leading this Miami Dolphins team to the postseason. But when you're trying to change the culture, it takes time. And I just think when you look at Brian Flores and his time in Miami, first year, 5-11. Second year, 10-6. This year, 9-8. They were heading in the right direction. Remember earlier this year, they started off 1-7. They were 1-7. Won 8 straight games. So Miami, I think they made a mistake here. I think this is going to be something that they look back on and look at and say, hey, we made a mistake here years down the road. But the only thing I can think of that would make up for this would be the Miami Dolphins hiring Jim Harbaugh. That would be the only thing I would say that could make up for this. If they bring in Jim Harbaugh, if they convince him to leave Michigan and come to Miami, that would be the only thing I would say that could make up for firing Brian Flores. But there's already reports that Stephen Ross is not interested in Jim Harbaugh. Don't look like that's going to be the route they're going to take.